Well, I'll check with her then.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have to
No.
wait?
Chair members.
Do we have to wait for the guys to record?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock, so let's get started. Roll call?
Okay. Doug, if you can please say if you're present.
Present.
Bob,
Present.
Sheena,
Present.
Amy,
Present.
and Brigham could not join us tonight. Thank you.
Well, I guess we can ask the crowd sitting back there if there's any oral communications. Doesn't look like it.
Well, actually. Even though I'm not the public, can I please make an introduction?
Okay,
Okay, so I would like to introduce Giovanna Ercanat, right? Got it? She is the new management analyst for the library, replacing Evelyn Cheng, who is retiring this month after 18 years with the city. So Giovanna and Evelyn have this week as an overlap because Evelyn's last day is Friday. So as much as of her brain as we can dump into Giovanna's, we're working on that. So wanted to introduce her, and maybe you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Giovanna. Very happy to be here. Just started with the city of Palo Alto last week. This is my first local government job. I worked in nonprofit for about 6-7 years in San Francisco, and then finished a master's in public administration last year. So I'm excited to, thank you. So I'm excited to be here and work with you guys.
welcome, and I think you'll find Palo Alto very interesting and different.
Yes, welcome and congratulations on your degree.
Okay, any additions, corrections? Okay, let's go forward with the current agenda. The first item is the draft minutes approval. Did anybody have any issues with the draft or want to move to approve them as is?
So we were reviewing a little earlier, and Monique mentioned two items. That one was that on page 3 on the second paragraph, it should say FRBR instead of FDBR. That's on page 3, the second paragraph. It should say FRBR.
FRBR.
FRBR, sorry, yes.
Okay.
And then one additional correction is on page 4. And it's toward the bottom, and it says Pacific Library. It should be Public Library Association.
Oh, okay. Oh, where was that on the bottom page?
Under
Page 4, toward the middle, kind of bottom.
Oh.
Karen right there.
Public library. Okay, now I see it. Okay, well, with those two corrections, somebody want to move to approve the corrected minutes?
I move to correct these errors.
A second?
I'll second. And that's to correct and approve the minutes, is that right?
Approve the corrected minutes.
Yes.
Right. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay. Then the next item is the Aspen Dialogue Report on library services, communication services. And that was an interesting report. Monique, you want to?
I'll talk a little bit about it and then give you an opportunity for questions. It should actually read Library and Community Services. I noticed that on the agenda now. So welcome. It's nice to be back. I'm going to dash out because I do want to hear one of the action items tonight at council. So hopefully we'll be here and I'll go back and forth. But anyway, I'm glad to see you all. Wish you happy holidays. Last year, the California State Library offered public libraries the opportunity to apply for to the ability to host an Aspen dialogue from the Aspen Institute. One of their areas of work has been around public libraries and how they engage with their communities and leverage the strengths that they have as trusted community institutions, and how they can best work with other community organizations. So we applied with the idea that we would look not only at public libraries but also at community services and think about them as similar types of departments with many overlapping areas of interest. The process that you go through is then to work with the Aspen Institute contact, Amy Garmer, who will talk with you and the community about sort of do a needs assessment, and then they do a deep dive looking at a lot of research about the community, and reading a lot about what's been going on in the community, how different topics have been approached. And then we invited a group of community stakeholders to serve as advisors. And as you'll notice, among them was Sheena and Doug, who both ably represented the commission. In the first day, which was, again, to explore the issues, kind of come up with what the topics might be to frame the discussion. And then in September, we convened the dialogue itself with many different voices in the community represented, with the idea that we would hopefully create some opportunities that we could work on together, either with community services or with other organizations in the city. So what you have in your packets is the actual report. City Council is also receiving this tonight as an informational item, so that'll be the first time they have that, unless they happen to go to the link when it was released on December 6th. So Doug or Sheena, I don't know if either one of you want to talk about what the experience was like, and then I can go back into some of the details. So I'd be happy to hear from both of you.
Sure. Do you want to go ahead, Sheena?
I think that's a very phenomenal experiences, because I have the opportunity to meet lots of people in Palo Alto, and also we have some members from out of Palo Alto, and they contribute their views on all these topics. And I think that's very informative and very exciting to know their point of views on how we're going to combine these two, library and community service, together and to serve the Palo Altans. Even they can use this experience to apply to other neighborhoods at the same time. I think that's a very exciting experience.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, really appreciate the Aspen Institute, and they were super supportive throughout and helpful to us as we got prepared for the meeting and everything. And then, just to describe it, there was a room, we were at the Mitchell Park Community Center there, and there were probably about 30 different stakeholders from, all sorts of not-for-profits and different perspectives. So it was really interesting to hear everybody's perspective and view on things. So I don't think that's ever been done before, that kind of meeting. At least I hadn't been to one. So that was really unique and interesting and educational. So, without having to be there for 8 hours, you can read the report, and they did a great job distilling it, into, Aspen Institute had done a lot of past work around libraries. I think some of us have read some of it. And so they applied that framework in the report. They brought that up and then took a lot of the input of the different stakeholders and, made it unique to Palo Alto. So I think the report really does capture the day, and it was really a great event. So it was phenomenal. So it'll be interesting to see how what council thinks and if there's any feedback and how we might follow up on it, and what we can do as a commission.
I'd like to add one more thing, because Aspen only chose 3 libraries to do this, and we're one of them. And I really appreciate Monique's work, because through this, they recognize our success in some way, and that's a great opportunity for us to exchange ideas and opinions. I think that's great. And please, if you have time, just read the report. That's wonderful.
Yes, thank you. So, yes, that's true. There were 3 libraries. So basically, the state library essentially contracted with Aspen, and they selected 3 libraries to participate this year, and there were 3 libraries last year. They may do it again. The state librarian was asking me for feedback about the process as well. And the other reports are available on the Aspen Institute website, so you can read the Nevada County report, you can read previous year's reports. And they've done these around the country, but not a ton. There's maybe 6 or 8 total. Well, we have 6, so maybe another 3 to 6 that have been done in other places in the country. But I agree, you should read the report. It does list all of the participants and their agencies. So picking up on what Doug said, like what do we do next? The managers from the library department and the managers from the community services department met last quarter, the first quarter that I was the interim director of community services, and we met as a group, so that brings together about 30 managers in both departments. And we had at that time we mapped out all of the groups that we partner with throughout the community, and we color-coded it. So looking at parks, looking at the art center, all the different functions of the 2 different departments. And we saw many community partners where in 4 or 5 different ways we were working with them, but we didn't know it. So we had never sort of looked at it from that perspective. So in a way, for the staff, this was a great introduction to understanding the community resources, which kind of came up in this dialogue, that we all work with. So that was one piece of it. So then last week, we had another quarterly meeting as a group, and looking at the report, the emphasis is really on libraries with, not so much on the community services side, but the idea of community health and wellness had emerged, and we do a lot of work in that area. So as a group then, this group also talked about some of the ideas in the report. So let me point out to you in the report, on report page 13, they did talk about the library strengths, which I also think apply to community services to a large extent. And those are people, place, and platform. So what we did was spend time looking at how can library and community services leverage people, place, and platform to do our jobs either more efficiently or more effectively, or contribute more to the community in a way that we haven't been before. Not necessarily spending a lot of money doing something new, but thinking about where might we take advantage of something that we're both doing or that we didn't know. So we did this brainstorming exercise, broke into groups, moved around, talked about it, and we're typing up those notes, and then we will kind of look at that along with who are our partners and put that together as a way to think of, okay, who can we go to for assistance on a specific area or a specific idea that's risen to the top. So we took those strengths and talked about that. We did also look at the idea of the three working groups. And so we looked at it from that perspective as well, thinking about the suggestions that came up under the lifelong learning working group. And those topics were getting the word out, offering a lifelong learning card, and surveying the community. In the citizenship and civic engagement working group, the suggestions had to do with developing and hosting civic boot camps, which actually got a lot of people very interested. Doing outreach to minimize or to maximize inclusivity, and looking at ways that we can build on the work that we've already done here, whether it's collections as being inclusive or helping different communities or looking at it in terms of just the cultural programming. And then there was the health and wellness working group, which was being a clearinghouse for health and wellness information, creating a safe space for all. So at this moment, we're using it, we're looking at those ideas as a larger group, but I think that the library itself will probably develop recommendations after we review the data of the two meetings and have some ideas that we can work on. I feel like we're doing some of this already, and maybe where we need to raise awareness in the community of what it is we're really accomplishing. But I will say that even so, it's nice to have your directions validated, that yes, we're doing things that the community does want, and so we're headed in the right direction. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you've read the report, if you had any thoughts about it, or if you want to go away and think more, I will welcome your comments via email or suggestions if something pops into your head, like, oh, you should really talk to so-and-so, we can work on this aspect. But I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
I just had a question. I wasn't sure, did the report come up at the Park and Rec Commission meeting at all? Is that a venue that, in terms of community services would, would overlap?
Yes, so they haven't met yet. Their meeting is tomorrow. They don't have time. That was scheduled to initially be on there for me to do the same kind of report. So I will do that report in January, hopefully.
Okay, great. And then just a thought, or to open the door, I guess, I don't know what others think, but if there's enough there or down the road, if there was some, need for a joint meeting or desire, that would be helpful, or to get, these different perspectives together in one room, I don't know if that would be valuable or not. But
I think that is a great idea, and I'll talk to them about that, yeah. That's a great idea.
One of the things that came across when I was reading it, I'm not sure I got everything out of it, but it was that we offer an awful lot of programs and activities that the public doesn't know about.
Yeah.
And we're not doing an adequate job of getting the word out that this is available under these conditions, at this location, at this time, and these are the sort of things you can benefit from. So I don't know how we uh, get better publicity, but I agree that we need to spread the word more.
Yes, that idea of getting the words out is something that we need to continue building on. I agree with you.
One of the things you might look at is some of the internet sites, like Nextdoor in Palo Alto. And we get that every day, and there's all sorts of activities listed. Some of them are just local neighborhood, and some of them are, that's paid. You know, people are adding, putting in, we're having a sale on such and such at this store, you know, that sort of thing. Which I assume pays part of the overhead costs of running it. But there's also occasional, this city group is doing, you know, city department is doing such and such. And you might look at something like that as an example. There may be other internet links that we can go to. And then, of course, there's always getting word out to the Weekly and the Post. And see if we can get them to publish it. The Weekly, you know, they lost the agenda listing to the Post. They were complaining about that. So maybe if we go back to the Weekly and say, well, here's another city activity that you might want to run, so you get people involved in looking at the Weekly for what the city is doing about such and such. They should be responsive. Give it a try.
We, all of our press releases are sent to the Weekly and the Post, and they go through the city process online, so sometimes they do get posted on Nextdoor. We do show up in a number of other places because they get reposted. And we have done paid advertising for certain events. One of the challenges is that by the time we send a press release out, the item might, if it's a program where you have to sign up for it, it's probably already full. So we have to manage the disappointment, but you're right. We send stories as much as possible. They don't always publish it, which is, obviously their option. And we do, for the larger events, we do invite the press to attend. They're notified that this is going on. There might be great pictures. We hope that you'll, stop by. So occasionally they do, not always, but we will continue looking for ways to get published.
One of the things you might consider, I don't know whether it'll be useful or not, but you send in a press release to a paper and they don't print it. You contact them and say, gee, you didn't print our press release on such and such. Was there a problem? Did we send it in too late, or didn't we have enough information, or did you just not have room enough on the paper, or you weren't interested in it? Because if we're going to send you press releases, we'd like to do it the way you need it.
Right.
And see what kind of response you get.
Okay, thank you.
So I had a question, Monique.
Sure.
The other two locations, did they cover the same? I think we're pretty unique with our library and community services. That wasn't part of their focus, was it?
Community services has never been part of their
Right.
focus. This is the first time they've done that.
Yeah.
No, every library is different. Every library is special. The Nevada County, it's much more rural, very different population in Nevada County. And I think Yolo County was the other library. So again, very, very different, so. The framework and how it happens is the same. The subject covered are always different. Great.
Thank you, Monique.
Thank you. Well, I will go check on where they are in the meeting, and then I may or may not be back, so,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. If you're not back, have a very nice holiday, and
Thank you. All of you
we'll
too. Thank you
look
for
forward
your-
to seeing you next year.
Thank you for all of your work on behalf of the library.
Thank you. Let's see, next. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so you have copies of the annual public library report. You should be seeing how the library served you in fiscal year 2018, and also graphs of lots of branch visits, and also the checklist, the checkout information. There's also a copy of the California Public Library Survey. This is a survey that we do every year. Evelyn will tell you that it takes humongous amount of time to gather all this information. And so that is also attached here. If you have any questions, comments.
I had a question about ebooks and sort of our overall, I guess, digital relationships. I think way early on, we had heard that we were trying to decrease that budget, but given sort of the interest and, continuing, I guess, availability of books and whatnot online, where are we going with that budget?
So we are looking at, budgets for everything. So one of the things is we had taken a cut last year for collections, as well as there was a position that was eliminated also. So sort of the reality part of being in the budget process. But we do know that ebooks are popular, although interestingly, there is a little bit of a plateau nationwide. So people still come to the library for the printed books and materials. So the only change that I'm noticing is DVDs are not going out as much. So I think the streaming, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, everything is kind of taking over, I think. So it'll be very interesting to see where that trend is going. I think it's evolving quite a bit, and we're going to try and sort of predict a little bit, but also watch a little bit as to the behavior of what our patrons want. So that's why we're kind of, we're also part of the Khalifa, and so it's a consortium, and we purchase. So the advantage of that is being a part of a larger group that is also noticing the trends. So I'm watching it with lots of interest this year.
Yes, I do have a question regarding the e-media. What do you mean by e-media?
E-media means, audiobooks, e-audiobooks, the DVDs.
But right here, collections in libraries by type of materials. DVDs is one category, another is e-media.
Yeah,
So
DVD is the actual DVD in the library.
Okay.
E-media is DVD, like the streaming DVD through.
Okay.
It could be, we have Hoopla, we have Canopy, we have lots of different
That would be
vendors.
included in e-media category.
That's the e-media category.
Okay. And one more thing on the page 2 of the how the library served you. The public PC sessions, what is PC sessions?
Is the internet sessions.
Internet session? So is that the internet sessions invite participants or?
No, it's basically someone entering the library and using the library personal computers, like desktops there,
Oh,
and using
okay.
those sessions.
So you're saying that they are using the personal
Yeah,
computers
it's-
in the library?
Yeah,
Got
I
it.
do apologize for that. That's a very librarianish
Okay.
way of saying it. So we'll try to come up with something that's more, patron friendly, I would say, because it's a
Got it.
very librarian. Until you pointed it out, it didn't even dawn
Okay,
on
good,
me.
good.
But yes, and that's that's a really interesting comment you've made, because that's another area that we are looking at to see, because we are seeing a lot more laptops used in the library. So we're trying to see, what is that opportunity for the library?
Because
pre-
the usage is kind of decreased,
It
right?
has decreased, and so we're kind of trying to watch and see if that's going to continue, because there are tons of people that come with their own laptops now.
So what about, do they, are they concerned about internet speed? Because I'm not sure about the bandwidth in the library, so.
It's quite good. I mean, people come, and we really haven't heard very many
No complaints about
complaints.
internet
Not only
speed.
that, I think the Post or Weekly, they usually have like the best hub for internet, and the library has been nominated, like, has won that like in a couple of years, definitely,
Okay.
that I have been there. So I think there's definitely satisfaction there, but definitely, personally, we're seeing a lot more people coming with their laptops inside the library, so.
Yeah, another thing is the successful retrieval / downloads. It decreased almost 30%.
Yes.
And what is that?
What that
Successful
means
retrieval?
is, so the state, you saw the state library report? So what it does is, every year, the state library, when they send us this report that we need to fill, they give us certain ways that we need to do it. So originally, what they had said was, a few years ago, was anytime there's a database that somebody is using, so they go and do a search and they find this database, and they go and look at it, that counted as a search. But now they have changed that, saying they have to actually download something to count as a search. So naturally, you would see that huge decrease, because the way they're counting things are different now.
Oh, the criteria is
The
different.
criteria is different now. But it's still called the same thing, which kind of confuses people. So I was actually expecting that question and was going to provide you that information, but that's where you see that big change in there.
Can you talk about the overall decline in program attendance? Is that because there are fewer programs, or some of the programs aren't full? What's contributing to that?
That is because actually, in the last 6 months, we've had several retirements, and a lot of our youth services librarians who contribute to most of those programs. I mean, we have 2 retirements, including Jenny Jordan, who is the head of youth services as well as children's library. She's retiring along with exactly the same day that Evelyn is retiring. Deborah, who has been a long-term librarian, she has retired. Another person has left the area, and the third person just got an offer at Menlo Park Library and has left. So the recruitments for those are going on, but we have reduced some of that programming. So you're definitely seeing that numbers there. And hopefully it will come back as soon as we finish the recruitment. But it's also providing us with a great opportunity to look at, how effectively we can present our programs and do a very thorough evaluation. And we are definitely looking into, what's the best return on our investment. So it's as much as we hate seeing people leaving, it's also an opportunity for us to look at what our future is.
So I had a question. I was looking at the branch visits and the circulation, the checkouts,
Yes.
which is, it's a really great graphic. And it's nice to see that top line and overall, the visits are ticking up. And it looks like the checkouts as well. And you can see the kind of the dip through the transition with Mitchell Park and Rinconada and the construction. So I was curious, though, I wasn't sure, when you look at Rinconada and you track it and you follow it down through construction, and then it reopened, and you can see that the branch visits pretty much bounced back to where they were in 2005, let's say, okay? But on the circulation side with the checkouts, it looks like for Rinconada in particular, that it hasn't quite come back. And I wasn't sure, did the collection shrink? I know we've got, the reading room is so wonderful there. A lot of people just stay. They're not walking out with the books. But I wasn't sure if you had any thoughts or insight onto, why that kind of anomaly, given the success everywhere else in visits and checkouts, that it seems like that one is just, a little bit flat, maybe, relatively speaking.
Yeah, agreed. And I think really the success of Mitchell Park. So previously, before the new libraries were, remodeled, built, Rinconada was the main library. So all our major collection was at Rinconada. So now with Mitchell having most of our collections now, especially the international language ones, I mean, I think the checkouts started increasing. Actually, Mitchell has more than 50% of our checkouts come just from Mitchell, right? So Rinconada has now become really what we call our adult library, where people come there to meet in groups, read the whole day. I mean, it's just amazing to see people coming with all their stuff, and they love the environment there. So they come there to study a lot. And then also, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere somebody in a few years would say, that's where we started our startup company, because there's a lot of that going on there. So I think it comes from that. I also think we had more children's items there, but now with Mitchell as well as children's libraries, that has also gone down. However, we are noticing that we're getting a lot more tweens coming into the library now. So that has changed for us the perception that it was an adult library. And so we're trying to figure out, what do we do with, how do we provide quality service to tweens as well as the adults who come there with certain expectations.
And just following up then, do you have a sense, like, at what point would we want to look at rebalancing, or, would Mitchell Park ever become a victim of its own success just in terms of capacity and usage? I mean, do we reach a point at some point where we say, we'd think we'd want to redirect some of that activity, or, we might need to look at other ways to meet that demand?
It's a constant, I mean, like, we are definitely looking at all those things, right? Like, to look at, and to us, at least to me, who has just come here, like, I still consider myself a newcomer after 2.5 years, is to look at, Mitchell has become our, what can I say, our community space, right? People come there for all kinds of reasons. So definitely we are looking at it. At some point, we're going to hit, like, there's only so much that you can put into one library. So we're definitely looking at that. We're also looking at, the whole e-media, versions. So is that going to take off even more? The answer, we're not sure, because at one point, like 10 years ago, a lot of people predicted 5 years later, there's not going to be any books, but obviously we're not there at all. So I'm as eager as you are to see where that is going. But the thing about being in the library is to really adapt to what people want. And one of the things that we have been extremely successful is the meeting rooms. So those small meeting rooms, We've had about, I think, 12,000 plus times. I mean, it's been booked 12,000 times. We actually see those rooms being booked right after midnight because that's the next day. People actually go and book that. And it's very, very heavily used. So we do know that there's demand on those things. And according to the demand, then we start looking at other things that follow. Yeah. But we're definitely, it's a very interesting time to be in libraries because the expectations are huge from libraries too. And I think that's probably like the most exciting thing to be working in a library.
So are we able to find the reason? Because we see that ebooks and e-media checkout is pretty high, right? It's checkout for the ebooks is pretty high. I think it's over 30%, right? So are we able to find out, like Doug mentioned about the checkout for Rick Canada is kind of decreasing. So are we able to find out the reason? Is it because lots of people in this area, they checked out book online. they read more ebooks than actual books. Are we able to find a connection between these two?
It's kind of difficult to do that because there's not just one reason, right? Like one of the reasons you could definitely see clearly is a lot more people are going to Mitchell. So we're seeing that. In fact, we're also seeing that College Shores is doing pretty well and the Children's Library is doing pretty well. So kind of difficult to gauge this, but interestingly too, a lot of people that check out ebooks also are the people that go to the library regularly. So they pretty much read both ebooks as well as regular books. So it's very hard to gauge whether that's the reason.
So in other ways, that it's hard for us to find out, is there a particular group of people who like ebooks over actual books?
Actually, there is some ways to track that, and we do try and track some of those things, but it's hard to be completely conclusive about it. I mean, you can't say that's the group that's the one that's not coming to Rinconada, right? Because what happens is because of the option that this city has of having 5 libraries, it's very hard to say how that behavior changes, like using the library behavior changes, right? So a simple thing like Mitchell at some point with the parking issues, maybe more people will come to Rinconada. So we're just looking at what is happening at this point and trying to gauge the interest, but.
Any other comments, questions?
Yes, I do have one more question about the income, the survey, okay? I think this is page 2. The operational income, where is that? The income, operational income is about 9,700,000 something. And expenses is 9,121,000 something, okay. So we do have a surplus. Does that mean we have surplus? The second page on the income for operational expenses.
Yeah.
Right here, you see the 9,767,378.
Right.
And you see the expenditure is 9,121,122. So it seems like we have surplus. Am I correct?
Where's that 912? I'm sorry.
On the next page.
Line 411.
401 to 411, you can see, you see 411, the item 411, and you see the 9,121,122. You see the number right there?
Yes, I do see that.
So does that mean that we do have surplus in terms of budget? Operational?
I actually will
income.
have to provide that answer for you. I'm not 100% sure about that. Because this is operating.
I'm just kind of curious about if we do have the surplus and what would happen to the money left for the operational.
Let me provide you with that information.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing, okay. Item 917, 917,
yes.
okay. It says that The beginning salary for manager of a special library service is only $1.
No, because it
What
really.
is that?
Because what it is we don't have those classifications, and you can't just say not applicable. You'll have to just say a number. So
I
that's how
see.
the state library said, no, it is not a dollar.
No wonder I figure out why
Yeah, some of
$1.
these things, the way it's all set up is you'll have to put a number there. And so that's why it's $1.
Okay. So for the salary survey right here, we have the beginning and the final salary. So the difference is you add on the benefit, so that's called final salary. Like, 901, the beginning salary for director, and right there.
So there's, for any position in the city, you have a beginning salary and then the highest that somebody can get over the years that they have been working.
Oh.
So that's the starting salary, and then over the years, as they work more years, then they get more salaries, right? So that's the highest that somebody could get in that classification. That's what that means.
But
And
it
is that a
does-
monthly number?
It
Yeah,
is
that's
a
monthly,
monthly
yeah.
number, yes.
But it doesn't mean that this is the number the person got, right?
No.
No.
It depends
Oh,
on where
so
they
it's
are.
a range.
It's that range, the higher,
Oh.
the starting range and the ending range, and I
I
don't think
see.
they put that very well, like the beginning and the final kind of doesn't really explain that
I
very
thought
well.
beginning is the base salary, then you add on the
No.
benefit, everything, so that would be the
No.
final, no?
No, it's
Oh.
that range,
Salary, range.
starting
Oh,
and
okay.
then the highest that somebody could get in that range.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Good, thank you.
Thank you, and I will definitely provide you with that information on that.
I think on the first question, I'm not sure, I'm not an expert on government budgeting per se, but the income is what the budget is from the city. So it's not earned income by the library itself.
So what happened to if
The difference, it would go back, I assume, go back to the city. So
Generally, anything
you
that.
spent under budget.
Yeah, if you're spending under budget, it would go back.
I think that's
To the
what's going
city?
on. Is that
Yes,
what you're asking?
That is a general.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, does that mean that next year budget, they will kind of cut down the amount that we're asking? So if we ask for this amount of money and we did not spend all of them, so the next time, probably, we will have less.
Well, this is why, let me clarify this before I provide you with more information that I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah, let me provide you with that information.
Thank you.
Any other questions about?
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was kind of odd was that children's circulation and attendance are down 10, 15%, something like that. And I just wondered, how come? Why is children's doing so poorly compared to the other branches? You look at, for example, branch visits, and overall they're way up. Mitchell is way up. Rinconada is up since it was restored. College Terrace is flat, but children's is down, so.
Again, the same thing with Mitchell, right? The Mitchell Children's Area is as big as the Children's Library. So once Mitchell was built, you can clearly start seeing that half the people have started going to Mitchell.
Okay, Mitchell basically took the children's library, even though they're almost at opposite sides of the city, they still drew from people from other areas.
I think originally, people from all over Palo Alto were going to Children's Library.
Yeah.
But with the option of having Mitchell with a very robust children's area and collection, people started going to a library that was closer to where they are. Still, they also have certain unique features, so people still go back and forth
Yeah.
between the libraries too.
Yeah, well, I thought that children's had features that the other library branches didn't have. Maybe Mitchell has taken over and has the same or even more features now. It's hard to track it just looking at this.
Yeah. It's people use different things for different needs because there's also the park. So, the nice thing about Palo Alto libraries are they're closer to other other things, right? So if somebody wants to go to the park, then going to the Mitchell Library makes a lot of sense because they go to this and then they go to the park. If someone wanted to go swimming, the Rinconada Pool is right next to the children's library. So I kind of think people schedule their visits certain way, but having two children's focused spaces in two different areas of the city has really given people a choice.
Okay. Well, in terms of total usage, it seems to be working.
That's true.
Any other questions on this topic? Okay. Let's see, you got the report. Oh, emails submitted by patrons and comments.
So you had asked us to give a report, asked me to give a report on the email that was attached to the last meeting.
Yeah.
And I went and, it was in the packet? It's not. Yeah, this was in the last month's email package. And I just wanted to provide you, as you had requested, I actually went and talked to the staff there. This was an email that had a lot of issues that they had encountered at the Mitchell Park Library. And I went and did some investigation to provide you with a report since you had asked about it. And essentially, a lot of those things, we had never heard of those, or nor had those been reported to us. So this is a situation, normally what we do is anytime someone has any kinds of complaints or we see something, we have a very robust process to report it. So we have a red book where we red book a lot of things, and then if any kinds of incidents happen, we put it in our incident report. So those are the things that staff do as soon as someone comes to us. So a lot of these things have never been reported to us, so if these had happened, we're completely unaware of it, and I don't think it would happen because it's hard. It's a very open library, so it's very difficult to have all these things to have happened at the same time. If at all we had any situations, then we would staff are very well trained to deal with it. So I would say that would be the response that I would give to is a lot of these things, when I went and talked to staff, I was like, no, we've never heard of this one before. So.
It's unfortunate in a number of ways because the obvious question is, why are you complaining now? Why didn't you complain when it happened? And you were in the library. You could walk over and talk to the librarian, and you didn't do that. So why not then and why now? And I think most of the time the people really won't be able to answer.
One of the things we tell our public is anytime that they're not comfortable with something or they have a comment or if they want something improved, to come to us directly right away.
Yeah.
There are several places where we have staff, and then we also have staff walking around the library quite a bit. So we do ask our patrons to come to us as soon as there's something that they need to get resolved. So
This isn't limited to the library, by the way. I've seen occasions where people send letters to the city manager, for example, complaining about a department not providing the service they ask for or ignoring them or something like that. And they never talked about the department first. They only went directly to the manager. So it's not uncommon for them not to go to the librarian in the time it happens, and it's to go home and stew and then send a letter to the higher management.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate, but it does happen.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments on the topic? Just kind of generically, in the packet, there's the letter from the patron complaining and as a response, but I seldom see another comment from the patron saying, thank you for your response, or you didn't answer what I was asking for. do we get responses when the staff replies, or are people just basically just ignore it? I'm just kind of curious because it seemed kind of odd if in several cases, it looked like the staff answered the question quite appropriately. And I didn't see a response back from the complainer saying, oh, thanks very much, you resolved the issue. So sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, you're correct in your assumption.
Okay, next item
Yeah,
is.
may I have a question,
Oh, you
very
have a
quick question? Yes, for this email package right here, the page number 2, it says, "Dear Kim, in accordance with the library's collection development policy," and I didn't know what happened. It seems that this patron was not very happy about our collections. So, and can you elaborate the collection development policy? So under what kind of circumstance that we would have like a four people group to discuss what kind of books should be included in the collections?
So this is a process that pretty much a lot of public libraries have, and we also have it, so we have a varied collection that reflects lots of different opinions and different subjects, different ideas, so all of those are in here. And the librarians selected according to a lot of criteria, including, what was how was it reviewed? Is this a topic that appeals to our community? Is this something that other libraries in the area have? So there's a lot of different criteria that we do when we select a material to be in our collection. And the process also is if someone disagrees with a particular book or material being in the library, then they can actually have us review it. And at that point, not only the selector, but other librarians and library staff members, we get together and talk about, what value does this book add to the collection? And then make a determination whether that book needs to be there or removed, or, there's lots of different options. But by and large, one of the things we do is when we do the selection, we're also looking at the criteria as how do we select it. So there is a very strong criteria that we have.
How often will we get this kind of request?
Really very rare. It's not very often. It's very rare, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the topic? One of the things that I thought was that it'd be very unusual to get many people in Palo Alto complaining about the content of the library collection. And if they did, it would be even more unusual to have the item removed from the collection because they had a real valid issue. I think it may happen occasionally, but I think it's quite rare. First, that there's a complaint, and second, that the complaint is validated. I think that's basically what you're saying. Okay. Next item is the October and November monthly reports. Do you want to take that?
Yes. So I have copies of the October and November reports. Do you have any questions for me there?
Just to comment on the Diwali celebration, my kids loved it.
Oh,
We had such a good
wonderful.
time. Yeah, my daughter came home with henna all over. She loved
Fantastic.
it. Yeah.
We had like 400 plus people,
Yeah.
and
It was great.
we had actually prepared for like 250. We thought we're going to have 250 people, and we were completely wrong, especially because of the air quality. We had to move. Originally, we had actually planned everything to happen at the art center, and then we had to move it back to the library because we had planned it to be an outdoor, had not to be the outdoor event. But yeah, it's one of those things that we were like, okay, so now we know 400 plus people are going to show up for this program. So we're definitely looking at, is this even the right venue for this, or Mitchell might be a better one next year, so.
one of the general comments I had is that the adult activities, adult attendance seems to be down, and I just kind of wonder, are we not offering enough programs, or are the programs we're offering just not of anybody, not as interesting to people? Because, some of them, they said that the attendance was like 9 people, which doesn't strike me as a big success.
Correct. Some of these are like, we do a lot of, what I mean is like some experiments too. And this year especially, we've been doing some things for young adults, like in their early 20s. And it's got kind of mixed response. So we've been trying it for, starting with Finance 101 to craft after hours on Friday nights. Some of them have been popular, some of them not so. So whenever we're targeting some kind of a different group than we normally do, so normally the ones that get most bang for the buck are our children's program and family programs, right? The adult programs are always very interesting in the sense, like, what else is happening around is a very critical thing. So we're still trying to figure that out. But we do want to target that young adult population because these are the future parents, future users, and we kind of want to see what can we do to serve that population. It also could be the fact that people are commuting a lot of times, and so they may not even have that energy to come back. So we're looking at, should we do it on a different day? So a lot of thought is going into that.
Well, I don't know how effective it'll be, but you might want to consider when you have an event, an adult event, notify organizations like Avanitas, even though you're shooting for the younger adults. Mm-hmm. There may be things going on that the older adults would also be interested in. And then you might circulate it to neighborhood associations. We have 2 or 3 dozen neighborhood associations. And most of them, not all of them, post periodic notices of things that are going on in the community. We get one from our local neighborhood association, and they mention things that are going on that city organizations are doing, like there'll be an event in one of the local parks, for example. Try it and see what kind of response you get and what reaction, when you offer it to them, are they happy to get it and post it, or they just say, oh, this isn't one of the things you want to do? I don't know. If you don't ask them, we don't know.
Next door is a really good idea. I'm definitely putting it in our marketing publicity group to consider. I'm in the next door for our area where I live in Cupertino, and I do look out for those events. So definitely we'll see what we can do on that.
Yeah, I think it's worth trying. I don't know how successful it will be, but if you don't try, you don't know.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. One of the general comments about the events in October and November is I was impressed with the range of things that you're proposing and you're doing. It's covers a lot of areas. And again, I think people don't realize all these things are available and they can participate. So we have to get the word out. And I think if you can get the word out better and even just use some of the ones we've done before and say, well, this was, we offered this program and the people that attended really loved it. And we're planning on doing something similar in whenever, if you are. But I think the big thing that we're missing in both of these months is the publicity and getting the people aware that it's happening. And the other thing that you can consider is having the events in different branches in order to spread it through the city. Now, obviously, someplace like College Terrace isn't going to have much capacity to do very much. And there's a tendency for everything to go to Mitchell Park because it really has the capacity. But Rinconada also has a fair amount of capacity, and it's near the Arts Center. So it's an opportunity that we ought to try and see if we can make it work.
Definitely. In fact, this summer, what we tried to do was have programs at all the libraries, including College Terrace. So we had like a block party at College Terrace and also a movie night, and they were very, very well attended. So you are right. And we're always like trying to look at opportunities to do things like that. But that's a really good comment, and we'll definitely take it.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, well, the council liaison is in the council meeting, obviously. So, any of the other commissioners have comments, questions, issues?
I had a question. Who is our new council liaison? I'm trying to, do we have one assigned yet, or they meet in January and they'll reassign it?
I think
Okay,
they will.
Well, it was, and it's not going to be next year, Karen Holman. And of course, she's going off the council. This is her last meeting. So presumably, whoever the mayor turns out to be next month will appoint somebody to be a liaison. And I have no idea if any of the council members are going to raise their hands and say, I want to be liaison, or they have to wait until the mayor points at them and says, you're it. I haven't had anybody contact me, any of the council members contact me and say, well, gee, with Karen leaving, I think I'd like to take it over. We can ask them, but right now it's kind of in limbo until the council gets organized next month and the mayor decides how he wants to handle it. But normally, unless one of the council members specifically wants to be liaison to a particular commission, the mayor assigns who does what where. There are some council members who really want to be on particular liaisons to particular organizations, and they almost always get granted that liaison. But if nobody speaks up for the library commission, up to the mayor. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
So I have the CLA conference report
Yeah.
that you had asked for. So lots of participation from the library. Let me give you a little taste of what it was. It was very interesting. I had a great time there, and I know Monique had a wonderful time there too. Monique presented a poster session, and I presented I was a part of that Aspen group along with the other Aspen libraries. And Diane had also gone there because she is now the CLA technology collection, what is she? Technical Services Group. She's leading the CLA Technical Services Group in 2019. So she's going to be organizing some really cool events around it. So she was also there. Tons of our other staff were there, ranging from, like, I asked all of them to send me something, ranging from art, maker fair crafts, to book talks, to civil engagement, sanctuary city, to statistics and the usage of statistics, to staff engagement, technology, especially for older adults. So these are all the different things that they went to. Anybody that went to it had a lot of creative ideas that they came back with. So hopefully that'll be showing in some of the things that we're going to try. But the biggest takeaways that we had was everywhere in California, you can see that there's a lot of interest in libraries trying to engage their patrons with different things that they offer. So we see that. And a lot of the initiatives that have been presented at the conference, we've already been doing it, or we've already done it. So we are an innovator for many of those things. So it was really great to see that. And like you say, our biggest, I think, need of the hour is to improve our publicity and marketing piece. So that is something that we're going to put a lot of emphasis in the next year, I hope.
The impression I got from the report is that Palo Alto is right at the top when it comes to doing things that libraries can and should be doing. There are always other libraries that are doing something specific that we can learn from. But taken as a whole, that we're doing quite well compared to the others. Is that the impression you got?
Yes, yes. I think we are very fortunate that we live in a city that has, a lot of things to offer, including really engaged patronage, right? So we are very lucky, and the fact that we have 5 libraries and, places where we can actually have these programs, a variety of programs on the same day. We're very fortunate, and I think Monique's leadership, trying to bring a lot of innovation into the city is just it's also something that I think this community values a lot. So it's great to have that combination, and I think librarians as a group too it's a group that always is constantly reinventing what we provide to our community, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think libraries have been able to reinvent themselves quite a bit now. But yes, it's great to go to the conference and say, we've already done that. So.
Well, in the annual citizen survey, for at least the last 8 or 10 years, they asked citizens, okay, what do you value, or what services are provided by the city that you think are really great? Number 1 is fire. Number 2 is police. Number 3 is libraries.
Yes.
So, after public safety, we're it.
We appreciate that, really.
Yeah. So, and the impression I've gotten, it's very rare to get public comment that was negative about something that's going on in the library. When I see the letters in the packet, for example, the vast majority of them that are talking about the library are positive.
Agreed.
And the negative ones are fairly rare. And every once in a while, my impression is the person who's being negative is just a jerk. That it's the kind of person who isn't really thinking about what they ought to be doing or how they could alleviate it. And saying there are too many babies in the library and they're screaming. Well, yeah, babies do scream. Okay, get used to it. So, my feeling was that the take back from the community is very positive overall.
Agreed. The fact that we have 1,500 to 2,000 people coming to Mitchell Park every day, it tells you that. So, yes. And our staff really enjoy interacting with every patron who comes in, so.
Any other comments or questions? Okay.
I have 2 more announcements that you might want to think about. One is you might have received the retirement party information of both Evelyn and Jenny. We will have a goodbye cake and punch between 4 and 6 on Friday, if you want to come and say goodbye to them.
At the main library?
At the Embarcadero Room at the Rinconado Library. Yes. And also, there's going to be a Brown Act training coming up in January, and we will send you more details about when and where it is. But that is something that I just wanted to bring to your attention.
I believe it's on the 28th of June.
Is it on? Yeah, we'll send you all that information. And the third is you have a new meeting calendar with the dates. Any other questions, comments for me?
Can I make a request to get these materials electronically? In addition, because I don't like the paper at my house. I don't have any room for it, but I want to save
Absolutely.
it, just.
Absolutely. It's also on the agenda,
is?
on the
Okay.
website.
I
Yeah.
need my handheld with an email, but sure.
Yeah, that's okay. We can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just a thought on the meeting calendar for next year. I don't know if we're looking for feedback on that at this point, and it's still a ways away. but I see the December meeting would be the 26th, which probably isn't out of the gate the most ideal date, I'd think, in terms of attendance. So I don't know if that's something we want to proactively look at, suggesting an earlier date in December that we maybe look at the first meeting of next year.
Thank you, Doc.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, any other items? So the next one is the agenda for the February meeting. And I'm open to what comments, questions, or issues people want to discuss.
What about the collaboration with the school district in terms of the library card,
Sure.
right? Because I
That's
heard my
already in the
kids
thing,
talking
yeah.
about that.
Yes.
They're so excited to have the library. They don't have to apply library cards in the library, but they just use their.
School library card,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yes, yes, and definitely, I'll be very happy to provide a report on that, yes.
Okay.
Mine wear theirs on their backpack. They're very proud of their cards.
I'm-
Very excited.
You know, that's the best thing. It took us like a whole 6 months to, get everything together, but I'm hearing really good things from parents. This is one of the things that actually several parents have contacted us and said, this is one of the best things you've done, so it's great to hear that.
So one more thing, once they have the library card, they have their school library card, and they can use that to loan out the books from our library. Do they have to pay the late fee if they forget?
Yes.
To return the books?
Yes, and that is, in your packet that you received from the school, that actually does say that. So yes, there is that. But know that children's materials don't have any late fine. However, if you lose a material, then you'll have to go through the process. But any children's materials, they don't have any late fee.
For the junior, they
Once you go beyond the children's street to the
Okay.
teen territory, then it becomes, yes, there are fines.
So, will you include also, I know that parents has the right to opt out.
Yes.
So you will have that data as
Yes.
well.
Yes,
So if
very
we can,
few.
if we can know the reason, that would be even better, but just see.
Yeah, I think a few of them who had opted out originally, in fact, because they already had a card, and so they didn't want to have two cards. But even some of those parents have come back and said, actually, we want to have a card now. So I know that the numbers have been overwhelmingly high on the ones that have opted to have a card, but I can definitely do a presentation in February, because that gives us like a 6 months with, looking at what has worked and what are the things that we're still working on, so.
Another possible topic, I don't know if it's for February or sometime next year, might be for the volunteer program. I don't know if we've had an update in a while. And then just in terms of some of the outcomes of the Aspen report, and I think
Sure.
in light of what Monique had mentioned, civic boot camps, things like that. Not to mention, if we are having a lot of retirements and we're having trouble filling positions, just in terms of programs that patrons might want to bring or promote.
Definitely,
You know,
yes.
from a volunteer perspective. I don't know if that's part of the program or not, but it'd be great to hear how that's going.
Definitely, definitely. We are definitely looking at our volunteer program itself, and part of the ideas that we want to explore is to see volunteers who are, experts in subjects here. And so how to bring them into the library and share their opinions, ideas, and expertise with other community members. That is something that we definitely want to look at. Our ESL program is partly very successful because a lot of those presenters, the ones that are taking care of it, they are the retired ESL teachers who just come and volunteer for us. So we are very lucky that we have a tremendous amount of talent here. So, that's an opportunity that we're definitely looking at. So more to come, though.
One of the topics that we've played with on and off for years is working with the school children and the school librarians in order to get more coordination. And at one point, we were trying to get the the school libraries to basically act like, I guess you call them mini city library branches. We had a terrible time coordinating it. But you might take a look at whether we can get any kind of interaction with the school libraries and school librarians. Now, in the past, we've had problems because of the two different administrations, and the two different organizations didn't want to get involved, especially from the schools. The schools, the organization that seemed to be pushing, we don't want that, we have our own group and we're going to stay as we are. But I still think that it'd be useful if we could coordinate and let the schools know that we have these offerings and these facilities that their students can use. And Mitchell Park Library in particular gets a lot of use by the school children because there are two schools right next to the library. Mm-hmm. But they're basically doing it on their own. They're walking over because the library is there. It's not there because the school staff is saying, why don't you go over and check at the library and see if they got the book you need. So you can try it. I don't know if we're going to have any success, but I would like to see if we can't work with the school district and get the children's organizations more integrated between the school libraries and our libraries.
So this was going to be part of my presentation next in February, but I will say that we have great relationships with the schools now.
Okay.
And part of the reason that the whole school library card to be used in the library is successful because of our relationship, especially with the school librarians. And we have had multiple school librarian meetings at our libraries, and where our librarians actually went and showed them all the different databases and offerings that we have. In addition to that, our librarians have also gone to the schools and kind of helped the kids, they have like a scavenger hunt that the kids actually use so that they can set up their PIN numbers, so that they can look at the different offerings that we have. And they trained the school librarians now to take it to different classrooms. So yes, that collaboration is very much alive. And I will be more detailed in my next, in February when I present that.
That's a big improvement from the way we were a couple of years ago. Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions? No? Anything else?
No.
Well, it's almost time to adjourn if somebody'd like to make a motion.
I move to adjourn.
I
I'll
second.
All in favor? Aye!
Thank you all.
Thank you all.